Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of Interviewing With. I'm Ashley from Are You Sure You Want to Do That? And today we have a fantastic guest. You know him from the hilarious YouTube channel MannShorts. We have the DM, Charles Bates. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Happy to do it.
So first and foremost, I gotta know, how did MannShorts begin? What was the idea behind it?
So Justin and I, who Justin is the director of the channel and my business partner, he is not on camera as much. He is in our Drunk Before Noon series, but for the D&D stuff, he's more behind the scenes. But Justin and I have been friends for 15 years this summer.
Oh.
And we actually have been making movies and films and shows together pretty much consistently the whole time. A lot of it is just I've always been a writer my whole life, and a musician here and there, but mostly a writer. And he has always like really been into making movies. And so just over the years, as we've grown and gotten better at it and gotten better stuff, but the MannShorts really, the first episode that we did, Hipster Edition, we never intended it to be a series. We just did that as a sketch, just as kind of a standalone idea. He had the idea for it, he wrote the script out for it, and so we shot it and we posted it and got a really good response to it. So I decided to write Gangsta Edition. Wrote Gangsta Edition, shot that one, and that one did really well. And so we just kind of kept going, and just kind of, I think I'd say after the first season, I think is when we knew that we wanted to keep doing it. Like this was going to be our thing we were going to focus on.
What has been your most memorable or favorite edition that you've done so far?
That's really difficult to say, because they all, I love them. I love all of them for different reasons. And some of them are funnier than others. I think Crossover Edition was really cool because it was ambitious, from a director standpoint, not for me. I just had to. It was I guess a bit ambitious writing it, because when I wrote the script out, I had to write. I had to designate them as Redneck Lance and Gangsta Lance. And then I remembered when we were shooting it, it took so long to get the take where I say what the initiative order is, because it's all over the place. It's like Redneck Lance, Gangsta Waylon, Redneck Sarah, Gangsta Sarah. So yeah, I'd say Crossover, probably. And then I liked Wild West Edition, which is one we just recently did. That one was really fun to do.
I'm a big fan of Redneck Edition and Florida.
Yeah.
Florida is another favorite.
Yeah, Florida is wonderfully easy because we just live here. So all I have to do is just Google the news for the day, and that's my script. It's super fun. Florida's
Just
good.
or just walk outside like I'm gonna put that in there now.
Yeah, pretty much.
What got you into D&D?
Um, my friends were, it was a friend of a friend kind of thing, back in '05, when third edition had just recently come out. I should say, I think third edition was published in 2000. I think that it was 3.5 that came out in maybe '02, '03, right around there. So at the time, 3.5 was like the hot new D&D. And so it was a friend of a friend where we picked it up. And when I started building my character, I knew immediately, like, oh, I'm just going to play this game forever, because I've always been a fan of and was a fan of playing video games growing up, which is one of the reasons I was a big fan of like the Elder Scrolls games or like RPGs in general. I've always been a fan of customization. I've always been a fan of allowing the player to truly have as much control as possible in terms of the story and the developing of the plot and how things happen and choices they make. And so D&D gives you that ultimate control. like no other game. I'm sure that there are arguably other like tabletop RPGs, obviously, that do that. It's not exclusive to D&D, but tabletop RPGs, I mean, you don't really get more control than that in terms of customization.
Absolutely, I have to agree with that. How long have you been DMing for?
Um, it's funny because I'm not too much of a DM. I have DM'd several times in the past, but um, Justin, when he originally wrote the hipster script, just he came to me and was like, "Will you be the DM for it?" And I was just like, "Okay." And so I'm the DM in all of the sketches, but I've actually spent more of my career in D&D and my personal career as a player. But I think the first session I DM'd was 7 or 8 years ago. So
Yeah.
I've probably DM'd anywhere from 10 to 15 times, whereas I've played way more.
What was your biggest struggle at the table?
Um, People paying attention
Mm,
to what seems to be just like plot is people pay. I think people play D&D for different reasons. I think that there are some people who approach it in a way where we actually I had a joke about it years ago because it happened in one of the We Play sessions that we did on our channel. There was a moment where Ethan was we were trying to figure out calculations of distance, and we were all trying to like struggling to remember how to math. And Ethan was trying to explain the distance of something, and then Jay said, Jay, the guy who plays Lance, said, the D&D is about playing pretend. It's not about math. And then I immediately say, well, sometimes it's about math. And then as soon as I finish saying that, Rigsby, who plays Waylon on the show, says, it's always about math. And so it's like those are like the three types of D&D players, because some people are there just for the RP, and then other
yeah.
people like really enjoy the mechanics, and then obviously you have some people who just like want to kill as much as possible. So people play for different reasons, and I think because of that, like if you have somebody who's just in there trying to murder hobo and do damage, then they may not be as invested when you get into flavor text stuff, like lots of fluff about like the story and the plot.
Mhm.
So it can be frustrating, especially like as the years have gone and technology has become more and more a part of our lives to being an extension of our body with our phones.
Absolutely.
That that I think is the biggest struggle is people's attention spans that just are ever shortening.
I have actually said that before. I'm like, before when YouTube used to only have like just, short videos, they were like 10 minutes. You wanted more, like, oh, I wish it was like 30 or an hour or something. And
Right.
now I'm on Instagram, and if I see something more than a minute, I'm like, I'm not watching this. This is just too long.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All of us have just kind of become more and more quick. We need the information faster.
Like, I'm not gonna sit here for like a whole minute and 30 seconds now. Come on.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
um, what is a pet peeve that you have when you do DM?
I think people just trying to make stuff OP. I'm assuming that that's probably a common answer. But just people that are just, if you're trying to break a game, it's like I like the idea of just doing the best you can with what you've got. I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with wanting to like be the most efficient character you can be.
Of course.
If you want to build the best barbarian there ever was that does crazy DPR, like more power to you. But when it gets to the point where you're treating it as you versus the DM, I think that's when it gets annoying, because I think that it's easy to forget that as the player, especially considering the DM plays the role of all of your villains. Like it's easy to forget that you're all playing it together.
Hmm.
He's there to serve. He or she, as the DM, is there to serve as the guide. But you're all ultimately playing together. So yeah, I think anybody that makes it like a me versus DM, that's probably the biggest pet peeve.
As you said, like the DM is the villain's but you can't also forget they're the love interest, they're their kids.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they're gods. They're everything.
So I love when my players are like, so what does the patron say? I'm like, yeah, he's not listening right now. He's a little busy at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Um, you're a very skilled rapper from what we've heard from DM Road to Rap Edition and also your album Attack of Opportunity.
Thank
What
you.
I always listen to it. It's it's on my playlist.
Good,
Um,
I'm glad.
yeah, it when it's D&D day in this house, like D&D, the best song ever is like on here. um, what has been your favorite song to write from that album?
Um, Probably Skill Monkey. Wow, I thought it was going to be difficult for me to answer that, but it wasn't. There, the thing that I did with Attack of Opportunity is that I made, I think, most of it structured around D&D. There are a few personal songs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my upcoming album, Join the Party, which is available on Halloween, is gonna be more, I think, personal.
Mm-hmm.
It will still be very much D&D themed, with a lot of elements about that, you know, nerd stuff in general, but it's a lot more personal. So on the first album, it was more about the game and my experience within it. And so I think Skill Monkey was important for me to put it out there because I I have kind of a reputation for uh, criticizing 5e. And it's not so much I think that I have anything against in 5e inherently. You know, I think that I understand why Wizards made it the way that they did, and I don't think that it's a bad game. I think that it's a good game. I just there are things from 3.5 that were not carried over, and I'm sure that they have their reasoning for not doing so, but I just miss skills. That was one of my favorite elements of 3.5 was just the ability to build a character with these niche skills that didn't necessarily have to do with their ability modifiers. And granted, it makes sense that, you know, your ability modifiers, you know, you wouldn't be good in a skill that is governed by an ability that you're not good in, but that's not always the case. It's particularly not in real life. You know, that you see tons of people who, you know, I experienced that a lot as a white rapper, as like a nerdy white rapper. It's like people hear that I rap and they're like, oh, okay. And then they hear me rap and they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah. Just because you think that I wouldn't be doesn't mean that I'm not. And same kind of thing with the skills. Like, just because somebody's an orc doesn't mean that they're not good at hiding. They could be good at hiding. And in 5e, you can't really do that. You couldn't really make, you know, maybe that's a poor example because I'm sure someone's out there screaming like, yes, you can. But, you know, I like the idea of being able to do the unexpected, and the more customization you have lends itself to that. So for all of those reasons, I think it was important for me to get that out in Skill Monkey. So that I probably had the most fun with building.
I love Glass Cannon.
Okay. Yeah. I like Glass Cannon too. Glass Cannon's fun.
Mostly because I am always the Glass Cannon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've spent a lot of years as barbarians and bards, and fighters. Fighters a lot in 3.5. I haven't done much spellcasting really until the last couple of years.
Ooh, no, I've never played a melee character yet. It's,
Really? Oh,
yeah.
you have to. You have to just make a big dumb orc barbarian who just is who's only there to swing a hammer. It's very fun and liberating. You don't have to think about plot. You just kind of show up to do damage and take damage. It's great.
It seems like fun. My husband is always he's the brute and I'm the glass cannon. That's how we
Okay,
work.
cool. Yeah, that's cool.
um, do you have any advice for new DMs, aspiring DMs? When you pick up the book, it's intimidating. There is a lot of lore. There's a lot
Yeah.
of a lot of a lot. Do you have any advice for them?
I think that the biggest thing would be to not be. I think the biggest thing would be to go easy on yourself. Because I think that I think that it's counterintuitive of you and counterproductive of you if you go into it thinking that, oh, there's this level of expectation that I feel like I have to meet for my players. Like I have to deliver this to them because honestly, two things. The first thing is the players are almost exclusively going to do what you don't predict. Almost always, whatever you had planned is going down the drain within 15 minutes. And then the other thing is like, they're there to have fun too.
Yep.
They're going to have fun. And it's really just kind of a follow up on the first thing. They're going to have fun, whatever your story is. So, they'll figure out a way. If you set up something that that you're worried, like, oh, maybe they'll think that this is boring or stupid. Like, well, if they do, then you'll know that because they'll just wander off and pick a fight with a bugbear in the bar because they just felt like doing that. So I think not being too hard on yourself. And also I think to follow up on what we spoke about earlier with like the players versus the DMs. I don't think that you should consider it this is just my opinion. Obviously, you can approach the game however you want, but I think that it's beneficial to you to approach it from more of a community standpoint. You're playing the game together, and you're serving as the facilitator of, the rules and the world surrounding them. But at the end of the day, you're all playing together. So enjoy it together. Don't make it like a us versus me kind of thing, or them versus me, or whatever. Don't turn it into a competition. It's a cooperative game. As the DM, I think, and puzzles. Justin would kick me if I didn't mention puzzles. More puzzles. People don't do enough of those. Too much combat, not enough puzzles.
Oh, the puzzles. I have not done a puzzle yet.
Yeah, puzzles will really wear you down as a DM because you'll be like, they'll figure this out. And then an hour in, you're just like, okay, you figured it out. Whatever. So
I've done that. I have been that's me as a player. Like every time.
Oh, I've done it too. Oh, we do it almost exclusively. Anytime we get a puzzle, it's just like, oh man, and then it's enough to get to the result, which is like, oh, wow, we really should have figured that out in 3 minutes. And we've been here all night, and now the session's over, and we just opened the door.
Oh,
so yeah,
puzzles.
it happened.
Thank you, Charles, for that insight, and I hope that helps you guys out a little bit. What is your favorite part about being the guy behind the screen, the god of that world?
I think that, and maybe this will sound like cheesy and goofy, but it's true. It's the first thing I thought of. I think that what's really fun is that your players have kind of entrusted these creations of theirs to you, in the sense of, people put time and energy and thought into their characters. I know that I do. I would imagine that anybody that plays D&D, like, you love your characters. Yeah, definitely. So when you're creating that character, you're kind of saying to the DM, like, okay, well, this is my character. What happens to them? And that's like a really cool responsibility, because you can really get to, you can kind of poke at them as individuals. You can work with them on the side of everything that's going on. That's probably my favorite thing, is like, we'll have like a main canon going, and then I'll have 3 other one-on-one storylines that I'm running with people away from the main table. And so it just it expands the story at the main table, because everybody's kind of got their own like side thing going on. But I think just getting to be a part of creating someone's character's story is really cool. I think that's the most fulfilling part about it.
I have to agree with that. I can't tell you how many times I've like went up to my DMs like, please try not to kill them. I really love my character.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, is that if somebody comes to me with a character that they have, like maybe they have a weird backstory with someone that's trying to kill them, like I want to work that in somewhere to the main campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I want to. It's like as the DM, I feel like as a player, you get to participate in your character. As a DM, you get to participate in all of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I think is the best part.
I agree with that, absolutely. Um, Before we get to the next part of the interview, I would love for you to plug any of your stuff, and we're also going to put it down here in the description for you guys to get to all of Charles's socials and stuff. So please plug any
Oh,
of your
okay,
things.
cool. Thank you. I've got a lot of stuff going on always. So the main channel is MannShorts, youtube.com/MannShorts. We're MannShorts on all of our socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We've got our D&D editions every Sunday. Every Saturday, we have the gag reel from that previous edition that aired that Sunday. We stream our 5e campaign, Airships of Nuada, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. The VOD for that is available on Mondays, unless you're like a patron or a channel member, in which case it comes out Thursdays. My album, Join the Party, my sophomore album, Join the Party, will be out on Halloween this year. My other album, Attack of Opportunity, is already available everywhere you listen to music, as well as on my Yazik channel. No, it's on the MannShorts channel. It's out there. And then I also have a podcast called the No Big Banana Podcast, which comes out Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Mostly we talk about anime and D&D. Tuesdays is anime, Thursdays is D&D. So that's what happens over at the No Big Banana Podcast. But yeah, we've got Justin and I have got a couple of projects that we're kind of working on in the background. Hopefully those will come to light within the next few months. Some cool new D&D related content. So keep your eyes peeled for that stuff. And I'm
And
Yazik everywhere online. YAHZICK.
we will put everything here in the description so you guys at home can follow all of this amazing content that he puts out. The editions are just, oh god, they're amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, we have fun doing them.
Um, are you up for some games?
Okay.
The first,
I'm game.
your game for some games? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Uh, the first one is I need you to make a perfect party of four. You are DMing, and you have to pick. They could be living, they could be past, they could be celebrities, they can be uh, game characters, whatever you want.
Oh gosh. Well, then they're probably going to be anime characters. Actually, I already know what it is.
Okay.
Although one of them is going to have to be missing. The perfect party of four would be, I guess that they could probably deal without the dwarf. But there's an anime called Goblin Slayer, which, by the way, I have no sponsor affiliation with them. It's just an amazing anime. And if you're a fan of D&D and you're a fan of anime and you haven't seen Goblin Slayer, I don't know what to tell you, but go watch Goblin Slayer because it's really good. So yeah, it would probably be less Goblin Slayer because he's really only there for that. So in that case, it would be there in the anime there are four of them. The whole idea of the show is that it's in a D&D fantasy world, and so but they never like say anything. Like it's funny because they actually like actively out loud speak to each other about how many spells they have left. Like they'll be like, a wizard, how many spells do you have left? And he's like, oh, got about 2 spells left. So they kind of keep track of it that way. So probably the party from there. There's a dwarven. He's kind of like a cleric, I guess. And then there's a like a lizard man dragon shaman. The priestess who does all the heals and the shields and the saves, and then there's the elven ranger. So I think that would probably be, if you have a cleric, mage, ranger, maybe somebody that could tank, it's probably the best way to go.
It sounds like a solid party for sure.
Yeah.
Are you ready for a little bit of this or that?
Okay.
Sneak attack or rage?
Rage.
College of Valor, College of Swords.
Valor.
Fighter or ranger with a bow? Oh, I'm sorry. Fighter with a bow or ranger?
Ranger. Because rangers can cast spells. You know, people are so mean to rangers.
They really
They can
are.
cast. Rangers are good classes, people. Don't come to me with this, oh, they're just fighters. No, they're not, because fighters can't cast spells. I'm sorry, I interrupted. What's next on the thing?
I love a good ranger, so I agree with that. Druid or monk?
Druid. Monks are broken.
They really are. Um, 3.5 or 5e?
3-5. All day.
Dwarf or halfling?
Dwarf.
RP or combat?
RP. If I'm having to pick the two between the two, yeah, RP.
Goblin or kobold?
Goblin.
High elf or wood elf?
Wood elf.
Night hag or sea hag?
Sea hag.
Flute or lute?
Loot.
Standard array or 4d6 and drop the lowest?
Ooh, standard array being like point buy.
Mm,
Point buy. Yeah.
last one. Dungeon or dragon?
Dragon.
What color is a dragon?
Red. Red.
It
Damn,
has.
red. Although any of the chromatic dragons from 3.5. I unfortunately don't know enough about 5e and their monsters. They don't have enough books, right? Hasn't it been out for 6 years? I'm sorry. I'm not going to say anything else mean about 5e. It's a great game. Wizards, it's a great game. I just have to play it and read more about it.
It's worth it's worth a shot. It's a good system.
I have enjoyed playing it. I mean, I have played, this is my second major campaign with it. I think the bigger issue is that I just have less time than maybe I did 15 years ago. So or 10 years ago, whatever it was, I don't have as much time to read the books. So maybe that's it.
That's fair enough. Um, yes, like at the end of the interview, I normally like to have our guests do a little adventuring hook. For our adventurers that is watching this right now, how do you want to send them on their way to their doom or accomplishing
Hmm.
something amazing? How are you going to send away our adventurers tonight?
Um, I would say that I actually wrote a little something down here. I'd had an idea of there's something that I've been thinking about as for a plot hook of there being a council of elders that that's oversee a city. Perhaps it's a really high society type city, lots of rich people, lots of pure-blooded magic people,
Mm.
and the council of elders has always kind of maintained the peace. And recently, there have been reports in this high society city of people being attacked by otherworldly monsters. And that is all leading up to finding out that one of the council of elders has allegedly murdered another one. So figure that out.
What would you do, players? Yazak or Charles, thank, thank you so much for being a part of this interview and being a part of Are You Sure You Want to Do That? You have been a wonderful guest, and thank you again for just being a part of this.
Yeah, no problem. You're a great host. And I'm going to tell everybody to come and check this out. And everybody out there, if you don't already know about me and my stuff, Go check it out. See if you dig it. If you like D&D, you'll probably be into it. Um, but yeah, you can find me anywhere. I'm out there. Go find it.
And like I
Thank
said,
you.
we'll link everything in the description box below, and we will see you adventurers next week with a new episode. Bye, guys.
See you later.